Do you want a financially secure future, not just for yourself, but for your loved ones as well? This is Generations of Wealth, the podcast that breaks down the most effective wealth-building strategies you can easily apply to your own life. Join investor and international best-selling author Derrick Dombeck in exploring practical tips and sound advice on building a profitable business, creating a powerful brand, or getting into the thriving world of real estate investing. This is your chance to create your very own financial roadmap to live your vision, love your life. Let's begin this discussion with your host, Derrick Dombeck.
Welcome to the Generations of Wealth podcast. I'm Derrick Dombeck, your host. And here at Generations of Wealth, we talk about how you can live your vision, love your life. And today I've got a buddy of mine who I was honored enough to be on his show, the Joe Killinger Show. And he's lives in LA right now. He's originally from the Midwest. He's been involved in over 6,500 different asset sales as either an agent or a syndicator or an investor. Joe Killinger, I'm not going to keep killing it. I'll let you introduce yourself. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Derrick, good to see you again. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I got to ask, and you can, fill the group, the group in here, but how does a Nebraska guy end up in Los Angeles?
I can tell you it was, I don't wish that upon anybody because of what I went through. Hopefully they have a little easier route than I did, but grew up on a farm in Nebraska, went off to college. We didn't have any money. I mean, this was in the 80s. So farming was a tough way to make a living. And my family ended up losing the farm. And so when I just didn't have any money. So I briefly went home before everything went to shit, packed up, told my parents I loved them and headed west. And I was thinking about Colorado, and I got to Colorado and I've already been here. So I just kept driving, ran out of gas getting off the 5 freeway in Orange County, ended up on Palisada and drove over the hill, saw the ocean. Like, okay, this is where I'll start. And so I started off down there, had no money, rented a room, piled my clothes up. That's what I slept on because I couldn't afford a bed. Roommate was a drug dealer. That was interesting. I don't think we want to get into that, but learned a lot about what not to do by watching that shit show that happened. Mm-hmm. And started doing telemarketing at night. And then I worked at Stride Right Shoes in the Laguna Hills Mall for a few years. And but my passion was always in real estate. And, my father was an auctioneer, and, they ended up losing the farm. And they had started another business too, an auction business. And he was in school when I was a kid. So I really got to hear him talking about real estate. And, I loved it. I loved getting involved. Matter of fact, even in college, I got involved with a company in Lincoln, Nebraska called Woods Brothers Realty. Pace Woods took me under his wing and really told me, when I say took me under his wing, this is how cold calling was. Joe, you feel you're a good person? Yes, I do. I think I treat everybody. You go, okay, these people need to hear from you because there's other brokers that will screw them out there. And he gave me the telephone book for Lincoln, Nebraska. He said, start cold calling. That was my training.
So did you start with the A's and work your way through Z?
Worked our way through. I was 18 years old, man. I don't remember those calls, but I can't imagine they went well. But I got to LA and ended up getting my real estate license and started working underneath a residential agent, and really found out that wasn't my path. It was commercial real estate that I really loved. And I took a bit of a long path getting there. I ended up working at one of the largest real estate auction firms in the state of California. And that was going pretty well for a while. I was in the marketing department, and I got moved. Well, they did an IPO, got caught fudging some of the numbers in the IPO, so they had to lay a bunch of staff off. I was one of them. And my now business partner, George, he's the CEO of our commercial brokerage company here in Los Angeles. He's the one that laid me off. So we've been partners now for 25 years. I've been making him pay for laying me off every day for 25 years. And we started our own firm and our own auction company that was a competitor, because we saw a lot of things that the big firm was doing wrong. We found opportunity. We like, this could be done so much better. They were one of the biggest firms, and they just kind of did what they wanted to do, and customer service just wasn't that great. So we decided that it would be great if there was a firm out there that really focused on the customer and what the customer needs. And we found a guy that I started first. George got laid off about a month and a half later. And I said, well, you can come partner with me if you want. And that's how we started partnering. And we built that auction company called the Sands Group. Within the first 18 months, we built it to over 5 million in revenue. And we were the number 2 auction company in the Western region. And so we built it very fast. But fortunately, that telephone book, cold calling, was the best lesson, because I then, because back when we started this in the early 90s, the internet really wasn't being used for business yet. It was just getting started. And so cold calling was a big part of it. So I had a pretty good having that lesson behind me. And so we just started cold calling, and we cold called everybody. We get in the office at 7 a.m. and we start cold calling New York. And we call all across the country, calling banks and developers. We ended up in Hawaii, would be our last calls of the day. Then we have to stop, write letters out to everybody, fold them, put them in the mail instead of emailing. So we built that company up, and then that company ended up selling to NRT through the Coldwell Banker division. And then so we went to another company, and we built a commercial real estate division up, and brokerage division up, and it was called DBL Realtors. We built DBL Commercial, and DBL ended up selling to NRT through the Sotheby's division. So we thought, well, this is not smart. Let's just build our own company. And we have Commercial Brokers International here in Los Angeles. We've had this thing for 18 years now. So that's where we're at now. And we do things a little bit different. Like, I'm in the studio. We're probably the only commercial brokerage company in the U.S. that has its own recording studio in the office. So we've got that for our agents to use. I obviously use it for a lot of recording, but I tried to make that as short as I could.
No, that was perfect. I've got so much to unpack from that. I love it. So time frame, you said that was in the 90s, and then you and George have been partners for 25 years. Because the Generations of Wealth looks at so many different aspects of investing, and not just real estate, it can be literally anything. The part that very few people talk about is partnerships, specifically partnerships that have lasted so long.
Yeah.
And I'm really kind of want to dive in on that, in how your relationship is with George and how you've kept it going strong for 25 years. And in my background, my business partner of 10 years actually just bought me out of our hard money lending company the first of this year. Okay. So we're still great friends. It was a completely amicable move. And, everything was set up ahead of time with buy-sell agreements and things within the history of our partnership. But you and I both know 99% of partnerships are started on a whim. There's very little preliminary work done because everybody's in their honeymoon phase. And then in the not so distant future, often things just go terribly wrong. So how have you and George structured your partnership to last 25 years? This is actually quite incredible.
Yeah, it's because I can't do what he does, and he can't do what I do. And we started that from day one. I got put into his department at this other company. I went from marketing to the closing department. He was in charge of the closing department. And I really had no interest. That's the back end of doing the deals. As the auction has happened, now you're closing deals. I liked it, but not as much as I did marketing. George loves doing that, and he doesn't like to do marketing. So when we started, we both had to do cold calling right away, and because we didn't have any business. I mean, we started with nothing. We were both living on savings, so we both had to cold call. And it turns out George is absolutely horrible at cold calling. Matter of fact, he got a head of an insurance company on the phone, got tongue-tied, and just hung up. He goes, I'll call him back in a couple days, but he does not like a cold call. He'll do anything he can to not have to cold call. But I didn't mind it, so, but when it came to the back end of handling these closings, so we divided and conquered right off the bat. And I think, we see it with our agents in our office. They tend to gravitate towards people that do what they do too. And because they think that commonality is something they can build on. When you really want somebody that can take care of what you are not that good at, cut the slack. And that's how we focus, and that's how we started. And in partnerships, I see, there's our agents will come in and ask me something about the back end. I go, I haven't done that for 20 years. You have to go ask George. And they'll go ask George something about marketing and go, I haven't done that for 20 some years. Go see Joe. And, in the beginning, and now everybody, they know what we're doing. And so it works.
No, and that's really how my partner and I were exact opposites. And it was great for 10 years. And honestly, even moving forward, I know we'll always do business together. We just don't co-own stuff because so much of what changed in our lives in the last 5 years had to do with our visions for what we want our second half of our lives to look like.
Right.
And I see that, our tagline is live your vision, love your life. And I see that with so many business owners where they work 60, 70, 80 hours a week and they never really enjoy anything along the way. And in some cases, they actually jeopardize their marriages or their relationships with their kids or their health or anything, right? Fill in the blanks. And so for me, I really want to take generations of wealth and expand that. And my business partner loves the lending space. So it was interesting as we started to see each other, not pulling away from each other, but definitely going in different paths. How do you and George work that out? How do you stay on that same path when it comes time to sell a company, start a new company, all of those life-changing decisions at the time? How did you work that out, or did it just come naturally?
Well, it came pretty naturally, but a lot of it is we're both big on communication. And, we look at our reports together every month. We look at okay, I think our money is we have had a couple companies we sold out of. And we're just this isn't, I'll sit down. Usually I'm this isn't really my passion. And George, yeah, it's not really, I think we can do more with our time. And I think because for us our time is it's just something you can never get back, right? Every day that you waste doing something you don't love or really appreciate or having fun, then maybe there's something else you can be doing. And so we really analyze that, and then we sit down and talk about it. And, we just had it a couple of weeks ago. We've got this company, our holding company. I said, I would really like to expand it. And, what are your thoughts on that? He goes, let me kick that around. He goes, I don't know if that's the direction I want to go. And we're okay, yeah, just let me know. And we have a meeting every month. So for us, it's communication and then understanding where they're coming from. You've got to really put yourself in their shoes and see, them better than, their husband or wife, they're going home to, but you're in the office with them all day, every day, or, so you kind of know, you probably knew the answer before you even asked the question, but you always want to ask it and then see what's really inside. The communication.
100%. And you just made a comment that kind of strikes me a little bit because this is still pretty new for me. You spend more time often with your business partner or your coworkers than you do with your spouse.
Yeah.
And looking back, Jeff and I both really made a determination that we probably should have parted ways a couple years earlier.
Yeah.
Except we were both and are both so loyal to each other. Loyalty is a double-edged sword. And a mentor of mine kind of smacked me in the face with that comment. He said, neither one of you actually want to be the one to admit that it was time to part ways because of your loyalty. And that kept you from doing what you guys actually wanted to do for yourselves a couple of years longer than it should have. Yeah. So I love loyalty and I love the relationship that I built with my partner, but it is a double-edged sword. We have to be careful of that.
Yeah. You got to be careful because sometimes resentment will start creeping in there. I've seen that with a few partnerships. And, being in commercial real estate, we see a lot of people partnering up, like I said earlier. And, the loyalty is there to each other, but yet when somebody's not truly happy doing what they want to do in the path that they want to go down, there gets to be a little resentment sometimes. I'm not saying every time, but sometimes the resentment starts peeking its ugly head in there. And then you end up in a fight, and, you have to communicate it regularly. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? This is a path I want to go. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. And so my next question would be, since we talk about generations, do you have children or family that's involved in a business? Does George have children or family that's involved in a business?
I don't have any children. George has 2 children of his own with his wife, and she had 2 children prior to that. So, and the 2 kids are the 2 of his. Just one got out of college last year. Another one's a pilot. All very successful kids. But yeah, I mean, there was a time when, those kids were young, and George was volunteering at the school a lot. And so, you've got to understand, there was somebody said, man, he's out a lot. And I said, yeah, well, he's raising a family. So that kind of stopped that. But
yeah,
so you have to understand where they're coming from.
Was there ever any desire for his kids to come into your business?
No. They're going completely different directions. And they don't even live in California. They moved out to, one's in Ohio and one's in Texas. And other one's in Northern California, I guess. One of the oldest son. And the other one's in Missouri.
I could make a wisecrack about them being smart and moving out of California, but I probably shouldn't do that.
I won't argue. I pay taxes here, and it hurts every time.
Yes, but you're paying your fair share, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's living in Southern California, it is beautiful. Well, today isn't so beautiful, but I mean, it's downpour, but the weather's beautiful. But there are definitely some downsides to the state. I think there's some things that we could be doing a lot better, but I think that kind of fits with a lot of states.
Yeah, it certainly, we don't get political on here because there's nothing to gain by it, but most of us being entrepreneurs are usually have the same mindset. And at the end of the day, I just really want to be able to run my business, pay my fair share, but leave me alone. And I think you're in a part of the country that unfortunately doesn't leave you alone, regardless of if you're paying your fair share or not.
New regulations came out last week that are really going to hurt the apartment industry, or actually it goes into condos and single family homes. And so, as somebody that's trying to build wealth in real estate in Southern California, you have to really take that into consideration. What else could they bring at us that I'm going to have to pay for, So you've got to be smart about it.
What are those regulations? Because that's the first I'm hearing of it. So
so there's a new one that got passed last Tuesday night or something like that. So if you raise your rents higher than, I think, 5% over CPI, and your tenant ends up leaving, you could have to pay full relocation costs. And I think the cheapest one was $17,500, and it goes up from there. So I think that's going to open up. And again, this isn't just apartments. This is condos and single families. And, if I just see it as being a way that there's going to be people taking advantage of that. And so, it's tough. It's tough owning, multifamily or single family residences in California, because they're just so heavily regulated. And they're all going to pass because it's, we have so many tenants. And so the tenants they're all going to vote to keep passing it. And, I had a property management company that we sold off right about 3 weeks before the pandemic hit. And because I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and I wanted to focus on our brokerage. But most of the people that own single family investments here in Southern California, I think it was 82% of our clients were mom and pops, no institutional people. It was all individuals or mom and pops.
So what happens specifically in your market in California when everybody just sells their property, their mom and pop, operations, and there are less and less rentals available?
Well, they took care of that last year. So I've got the ULA tax. And, they got us with that. So anything over a certain amount. Now, I think that's going to be stuff that's over 5 million, but you pay more taxes, and it's keeping a lot of people from selling. And so I don't know. It just seems like people like to invest. That they live here, they want to stay invested where they can drive to where they can go see their investment. So I don't see, we're not having a big push to sell. But then again, what are you going to go buy right now? Your interest rates are going to go up, and so we don't have. I mean, I'm looking. I'd like to see more multifamily coming on the market here in Southern California. We've got a couple actually coming up in the couple weeks. But I've got investors that have so much cash and they believe in it. And so they want to buy, and I'm ready to sell it to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit. What do you see happening with the commercial market, both locally for yourself, but also on a national level? Do you think that interest rates are going to stay level, go down, tick up? How does this affect cap rates? How does this affect especially the multifamily space that has bridge loans or commercial five-year type products coming due? What's your thoughts on all that, Joe?
I was in, so I'm in Dallas a lot. We keep a corporate condo there, and I went and met with people. They own banks, mortgage brokers I was talking to across the board. And, these people are in and out. I obviously here in Los Angeles, I'm constantly talking to the same type of people. And a lot of these people don't even know each other. But they all think that you're going to see a cut in rates June. Almost all of them are May, June, and there's a lot of ifs that came with that, depending on inflation, but they're saying it's going to be that far out. But I'm also seeing, we're seeing workouts that are happening with a lot of the banks. So, the banks don't want to take these loans back. And so they're trying to work it out, blend and extend, but that could, you're not going to be able to do it with every property. And a lot of the banks have, they know people that have cash that are ready to buy, and they're saying, listen, I've got this loan coming due. Do you want it? Let's get it sold right away. And so they're selling them off because there's a lot of people that have put together a lot of money, and there's syndicators. They've got millions, if not billions of dollars just waiting to buy these loans and these properties. So I haven't seen a lot of the acquisitions happen yet, but that is happening. I just haven't personally seen it.
To be clear, you're saying the banks are going to sell the notes, or the banks are going to foreclose and sell the properties?
Both.
Okay.
Both. That's what they were saying. So they just don't want to take the money back, because for every dollar you have in a bad loan, you have to keep at least $1 in reserve, maybe $1.50 in reserve. So they don't want it. So they're trying to dump them as fast as they can. And some of these notes are fairly good because these people have lost a portfolio. Maybe this property is still performing okay, but the rest of the portfolio is done. So they're kind of, they're just going through everything and kind of, the wheat with the chaff. They're trying to figure out what's good, what's not. Let's make sure everybody's got a good property that they can acquire.
Well, you can tell you're from Nebraska when you're using wheat and chaff in your algae. That sure isn't an LA thing.
All I could think of was the shaking, right? You've got the good notes in the portfolio. You got some bad notes. Let's get rid of what we can get. And let's foreclose on the rest and be done. Let's get rid of it.
You got a different kind of shaking in California. It's called an earthquake.
Oh, we had a beauty last week too. Scared the hell out of me.
Really?
It's just buildings on rollers. So, and here's the thing: our office was across the street for a lot of years. And that was on rollers. It goes this way, and this building goes this way. So I was on the 23rd floor over there looking at this building. So when this one's going this way and this one, it looked like you were moving feet. When it was probably inches. But when you're looking at the seam, oh man.
Well, you can keep that. I don't really have any desire to be involved in that at all.
Yeah.
So
it's you talk about not having any control.
Yeah, for sure. Let's dive into syndicating, because you experienced that more than a lot of people. In my mind, the banks themselves being at probably 70% loan to value on a lot of these commercial loans aren't really in a bad position. But the syndicated money that was used at the beginning of that project, are you seeing or hearing about a lot of these syndications having cash calls or just flat out failing and the investors are losing everything? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I mean, and you saw it, Derek. This could get ugly. I've been in the business a long time, and we had an upswing for how many years? 11 years, 12 years. And I was talking to people, and are you sure you want to invest in this? I said, interest rates go up, you've lost everything. You don't understand the way real estate's done now, Joe. I mean, it's like, holy shit, okay. Yeah. And it didn't, you've got to have the basics, right? And a lot of people that didn't have experience all of a sudden got on YouTube and learned how to do this. And, they were geniuses. Well, they've lost their properties, and some of them were able to syndicate. And, matter of fact, I sold one property. A guy reached out to us for our multifamily portfolio in Dallas. And he goes, hey, I want to buy your portfolio. And it was just, actually, I shouldn't say it was a couple properties is all. And we'd slowly been selling some stuff off. And these were our last two that we wanted to keep and redevelop. And I said, well, they're not for sale. And he goes, well, what do you want for them? We threw a number out there, and he took it. And so we're like, okay, you can have it then. Because we weren't going to, it's the number we would have got if we'd have went through the whole development process. Now I don't have to do all this brain damage. I can just sell it to this guy and be done. What I find out later, about a year later, was that he was the syndicator and the contractor on the deal. So he got all of his money out front, and he didn't care about the property. Yeah. And, so, those went back. But you're hearing about deals that were syndicated that probably the people that were in charge of it didn't have the experience they needed to really operate something. And now they're going back to the banks.
Well, in every shift in the market that you've seen in 30 years, and I've been in business a little over 20 years, there's always a percentage of us that, we've got, I guess, the experience, right? We've seen the end of the movie, so to speak, and we know the punchline to the joke.
Yeah.
Where's the opportunity right now for people that are, number one, experienced or willing to go out there and learn and get after it? Where's the opportunity in the commercial space?
It's such a local, I can speak to you about Southern California, but
sure.
It's such a local thing. I mean, it's, wherever you're at within a few miles of your home is, and then you drive another 5 miles, it's going to be a completely different market. But, right now, retail in Los Angeles is on fire. I mean, if we get a second gen restaurant, I mean, I've got 10 restaurant operators that are experienced that have been waiting for this. They're waiting for the locations. They're waiting to expand. I think that you're going to see there's been some opportunities in office. A couple of office buildings came on the market and sold at 50% discounts. In San Francisco, now the name just escapes me, a property management investment firm bought a portfolio of apartments in San Francisco for closing on the loans. And now they own, you're seeing multifamily is still up there. Up there, office is going to be another thing. I've talked to several people that are very strong in the office market. They're making a killing on it already, and it's just not in the news. But in Los Angeles, industrial's on fire if you can get your hands on it. Retail, good multifamily is, if you want to stay, depending on your city, there's like the regulations I was talking about before is Santa Monica. That will probably spread throughout Los Angeles. If you want to be in LA County or Orange County is strong. But I really think office down the road, there could be some opportunity that you want to keep your eyes on, because I think we're going to convert a lot of it. And I think when we get on the other side of this, there's going to be a shortage of office. And so that could be an opportunity. And that's talking to several sophisticated investors. They're like, yeah, we're sitting right now. We want to buy some office in the next few years. But again, that's LA. Your market's going to be completely different than mine.
Absolutely. And the Midwest market versus the East Coast, West Coast, that's the whole reason why you want to have connections and boots on the ground and at least be having conversations with people from other parts of the country that's the great part about hosting a show, and you get to talk to great people like Joe and everyone else, right? We interact with each other frequently amongst our peers to kind of see what's happening and gauge our next move. I've been in residential real estate for so long, and quite honestly, it's not even exciting to me anymore. But it's so, I don't want to use the word easy, but it's simple, right? The concept is simple. But in the Midwest, we don't get the big peaks and valleys. We're usually pretty even keel. And there's definitely opportunity here. You can still buy cash flow in residential real estate. Where I'm seeing a lot of the small businesses, and that's my target now, is the baby boomers trying to sell off their small business. Mm-hmm. There's nobody that wants them, but they're great opportunities. And especially in a creative space, I really enjoy putting together deal structures that make sense for everybody. It's a great space that you can do that in. So
I agree. I think there's a lot of opportunity. In Southern California, we're not too bad. We don't get the peaks and valleys. Kind of, Dallas up and down constantly, but Houston, but mm-hmm. We don't have it too bad. But you've always just got to be doing research. And I mean, I read 5 publications before I hit the office in the morning. I read them. I understand what's going on in the marketplace, what's happening. I'm constantly watching Wall Street news because my clients are watching it too, right? But, mm-hmm. And then the conversations I have with those people, I learn something new almost every day. And you're right. It's your network is your net worth, like you were saying earlier. LinkedIn's very powerful. Start reaching out to people and asking questions. You would be surprised if you just call somebody up and ask for their opinion. So not everyone, but a lot of people will give you some guidance. But for Christ's sakes, don't get on YouTube and learn how to be an Airbnb investor or BRR person.
I don't want to pick on any one platform.
Right.
However, I will say this, the bigger pockets YouTube generation.
Yeah.
If I hear one more person brag about taking out a HELOC on their personal home and how great that is to go, start investing with, it just makes me cringe, because people are willing to risk their personal family home with zero experience in the business. And I jump on those forums and answer questions and interact with people all the time. And I stopped even answering that question about BRRRR and, using HELOCs. I went through that. I lost it all in 2007 through 2009. And, I've got that t-shirt. I never want to wear it again. And I see these people making the same mistakes, and you can tell them over and over again. It does not matter. I hate that. But that's part of.
I had a guy that was in Illinois. He had 30 Airbnbs, and I said, this was like 3 years ago. I said, what are you going to do when the economy slows down? Because you've got Illinois, but it's on lakes and mm-hmm. in those kind of visitor areas. And I'm like, what are you going to do when people can't afford to go fishing every weekend, or they can't afford to just get away for a weekend? And he goes, I'll be fine. But, last I heard, all of them, he's lost them all. And, it's wiped him out because, and he was a YouTuber. Mm-hmm. And, but the fundamentals are the fundamentals, right? And you got to understand the fundamentals. And, if you think you're going to do appreciation play in Illinois, have I got news for you?
I mean, my feeling is if it doesn't cash flow and it doesn't pay for itself, I'm not getting involved. Now, I know that may not be possible on the East Coast, West Coast, but if you're in the Midwest and you have an Airbnb, it better at least break even as a monthly rental.
Yeah.
If it doesn't,
don't finance it to buy the next one.
Right.
That's what they were doing. And I'm like, this is going to kill you guys. But I think that, and I don't want to bag on Airbnb or BRR. There are ways to do it and do it right. It's just, you don't want to do it. These guys were growing. They're buying property almost every month. Yeah. And there's just, you can't.
And let's be honest, it's a hospitality space. And if you start getting several bad reviews, it's beyond your control, and you can be devastated very, very quickly.
Well, and also the Airbnb fees are just keep going up and up and up. I think it's about now, it's cheaper to go in a hotel now. And
right.
so,
Yep. I remember years ago when people were building businesses on eBay. And in fact, I have some family members that, I have a good close family member of mine who parts out vintage cars and sells everything on eBay. And most of it goes overseas. And he still does that successfully, but his entire business is, for the most part, controlled by eBay's rules. And every time they change a rule, and now how often do you even hear eBay mentioned? It's very seldom.
Very seldom. It was a big one at one point.
Yep. But when you build your whole business on a platform like VRBO, Airbnb, eBay, any of those, your business, you have no control over your future. And
you got to be smart. I mean, and I'm not going to bag on WeWork, but everybody in commercial real estate, when WeWork launched, are like, this will never make it. I mean, this can't work. Every company that started this kind of office sharing platform, 100% at that point had gone BK. Well, now WeWork gone BK because that platform just doesn't work the way they're trying to do it. And he came in, ran the same platform, but added expenses on top of it. And it was just an arbitrage of his lease rate and what he was trying to get from everybody else. And so everybody was just waiting for it to fall. And, the hype around it is what really helped it grow. And, and now Newman's trying to buy it back out of bankruptcy.
Yeah.
So we'll see what he does.
Well, like I said before, for the 5% of us, there's always opportunity when there's different regulations or different market shifts. And so I guess, Joe, why don't you give us, this is my favorite question that I love asking every person I interview. What should I be asking you that I haven't?
Oh, good Lord. That is a very good question because I ask that all the time. Now I know what it feels like. You know what? When's a good time to start? And, I think that's an important one. And, I think that, we all want to be an investor of some sort, be it in real estate or stock. And I guess there's no really right answer. It's individual, but I can tell you as soon as I had enough money put away that I knew that I could lose, that's when I started investing. And, it doesn't have to be that much, but you want to save and make sure it's something that you can afford to lose. And then every time you make a little bit more money, put it right back in that account so you can keep growing and growing and growing. But education, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity, get a mentor, if you really want to learn this business, there are a lot of people that would mentor you, offer to do something for free with them. If Derrick, you're not good at typing or you're not good at creating content or something, somebody should reach out to you and say, hey, Derrick, let me do that for you. I just want to follow along with you 2 days a week. Is that okay? And I will do all this for free for you. And, offer to do something for free. But really have the education and understand how important it is to understand the basics of investing before you start.
100%. And, one of the big mistakes that I made, and I love the point you just made, Joe, is I'd never networked or built a network the first half of my business career. And now, I mean, that's everything that we do. I truly spend probably 50% of my work week in networking or things like this, right? Expanding, podcasting, fill in the blank. And so many of us are so in our heads about asking for help. Mm-hmm. When I come across a real estate deal or any kind of a transaction that I don't know how to do, that's the whole point of having a network already established, because I could call Joe, Joe could call me. We're happy to bounce ideas off of each other. We're not in competing markets. We're not ever going to, and I know that Joe has an abundance mentality, as do I, because we know each other already. But, the people with the abundance mentality versus the I can't share any of my secrets because there's only enough deals for me, that just doesn't get you anywhere. So I love everything you said. You also had mentioned earlier to me about there's an importance of getting yourself out there. And I believe you write a blog or something like that.
Yep. Because we got the YouTube channel. We got a blog that went on the website. You can see the website address is right there. And I think that's important. If and that's another thing is it really forces you to learn, right? So I'll get my head an idea that I want to put on the blog that I think it would be helpful for our community. And then I have to do some research. And more often than not, I'll find that all this experience I've got from all these years, something's changed somewhere. And, so I'm constantly learning because I'm writing these articles. And it doesn't take that long. I try and do at least one blog a week, and try and be as helpful to the community as I can. But if you can, you should write. And if you don't even have a blog, you can go on to medium.com and just start posting there. And you'll be surprised how writing these articles, these blogs, will help you gain some experience and great knowledge.
Well, and for those that are listening and can't see the video, it's joekillinger.co is the website that you referenced. Well, Joe, I guess, is there any other way people can find you, get a hold of you, reach out to you? Give us your
You betcha. You can go on the website, like you said, Derrick, joekillinger.co. You can email me direct at joe@joekillinger.co, or my direct line at my office is 310-943-8542. So don't hesitate to reach out. We're big on helping our community. And matter of fact, in a half hour, I got a call with a guy that just wants to get started investing in properties in Alabama. So happy to jump on a call with anybody.
Well, Joe, I appreciate it. It's been great getting to have you on my show. It was awesome being on your show. And just like anybody that is listening to Generations of Wealth, this is what it's all about. We just come on here, share knowledge, and help each other. So thank you, Joe.
You betcha.
And I'm going to sign off. Remember, Generations of Wealth, live your vision, love your life. See you on the next one.
Thank you for joining us on another insightful episode of Generations of Wealth. May your newfound knowledge help you in leveling up your own strategies to get through the many obstacles to your money-making processes and bring you much closer to the financially secure life you truly deserve. Continue filling up your accounts and further polish your financial tactics by listening to more episodes of the podcast at thegenerationsofwealth.com. Because in your wealth-building journey, there is no other way to go but up, giving you the chance to finally live your vision, love your life. That's all for now. See you on the next one.